Welcome to the Wild Type Podcast. I'm Lyssa Lizards.
I'm Neptune and Chameleon.
And we're your reptile girlies. So last week we briefly touched on the fact that I was like out of town and whatnot.
Yes.
But what we didn't discuss was the panic attack that I had before leaving for the trip, which is not abnormal for me.
Yeah, you have a little travel anxiety.
I always have like a little travel panic attack like the day before I leave. That's like very normal. But this one was because of Voldemort.
Yes, if you guys recall,
Yes.
the episode before,
Yeah.
we talked about moving him into his new
Yes.
enclosure.
Which was very, very exciting and wonderful. But I made the conscious decision to move him in knowing that like a week and a half later, I was going to be out of town, right?
Yeah.
Which was risky. That wasn't the smartest, personally. But I made the conscious decision. I was like, all right, like I'll figure it out just because he's so squirrely.
Yeah.
That I never really know like if he can get out, especially putting him into a new enclosure, like the dangers of him like finding a way out are...
There's not a lot of time to proof it.
No.
To see where he gets into trouble and then do something about it because you only have a week and a half and then you're not home.
Exactly.
And you're like, maybe on the 8th day is when he
Exactly.
decided to like do something dumb.
Right.
Yeah.
And not to like scare anybody, but like legless lizards, when it comes to them, like that animal will eat literally anything. So I know for a fact that if he were ever to like get out or get into another enclosure, that would be like very deeply concerning.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, I think about it all the time. Think about it all the time.
This is why he's named Voldemort.
This is why he's my little demon, because
That eats glue. Not
no,
literally. That's a reference to
the other episode. Yeah, but I could genuinely see him, and like Nessie is very small.
She's very small.
So like
But her enclosure is very secure.
her enclosure is very secure, but that is something that crosses my mind.
What is it they say? Like the odds are never zero.
Yes, the odds are never zero. Like he's always trying to kill me. He's always trying to escape. And if he escaped, I don't trust what he would do.
What do you do in those instances though? Like you're not the only one,
No.
right? Who gets
No.
nervous. You like leave for your trip and you're like, did I like lock the enclosure? Did I close the
100%.
reptile room door? Like
100%.
whatever. Or did your pet sitter do like, there's a lot of anxiety when it comes to leaving your pets at home, but especially exotic animals that just like a lot of things can go wrong and be fatal. So like, what do you do?
I mean, I super proofed the enclosure as best as I possibly could. So like I made sure that like the doors were very secure. And a little pro tip, if you like don't have enclosure locks on hand or something, I have in the past nailed little nails to the wood next to the doors and then used hair ties. This is such a reptile girly thing that like men would never do. But like I've hammered nails into the wood on the sides, and then the knobs, I've tied them with hair ties as like an extra
To be extra sure they're
to
not
be
going
extra
anywhere.
safe. I have done that in the past. That I think the nails are still on Hazel's enclosure from that. And then I didn't do that this time just because the doors were heavy, seemed very heavy enough that he could not move them. But I just like triple checked everything, made sure he was good. But the reason for my panic attack, I was leaving on a Tuesday. I had put him in the enclosure maybe like the Monday before, right?
Yeah.
No, I was leaving on Wednesday and I had put him in the Monday before. So it had been like a week and like a couple of days, right? So I'd obviously been keeping tabs on seeing him and like where he was. On Tuesday night, and I was leaving at like 6 a.m. Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Tuesday night, I had not seen Voldemort since like Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
And so I was like, and that's normal because he's a burrower, so he loves to burrow deep down in his aspen. So like it's normal for me to not see him for a couple days, but when it's a new enclosure and I'm about to be gone for 4 days,
I
was like, I'm terrified. I don't know what's going on.
Need to make sure.
So the day that I left, like the morning that I left at like 5 a.m., I literally like turned on all the lights. I was like, wake up, guys. We're finding Voldy.
Rise and shine.
And Logan was like sitting there with me and I took my like snake hook and I was like digging around in the aspen. And then finally Voldemort like popped his little head up at the front of the enclosure and was like, what the hell are you doing? What's going on? Why are you digging around in my space?
Why are you disturbing my
And I
peace?
finally was like, That's all I needed to see. That's it. I just needed
Proof
to
of
see
life.
you're good.
Thank you.
Proof of life, proof of enclosed, proof that you're contained, and we're good. Nice. So luckily I was able to find him pretty quick and easy, but like there's a ton of aspen in there. I would say it's like probably 4 to 5, maybe 6 inches of substrate across a 4-foot space. So like he could be anywhere in there.
Yeah.
And so it takes some time to find him sometimes. I think I was digging through the aspen for a good 10 minutes before he popped his little head up. So
yeah, and we've said this many times before. Like it is so rewarding as a keeper when you can't find your reptile because you know you've given them ample hides, places to feel safe, all that. But then selfishly, you're like, but where are you? Like I need to see you.
But I'm stressed because what if you got out?
Yes, even though you know logically the enclosure is closed and there's no way for them to get out. But what if? And the odds are never zero.
That goes into a little bit, one of our topics for today is how many of us have had the nightmares of that happening?
Oh yeah, just nightmares in general.
Yes, like reptile nightmares are a thing. Somebody, one of our listeners mentioned this in our Instagram Q&A and I was like, we have to discuss because I have had so many over the years.
Absolutely.
Like, it's crazy.
I don't remember a lot of my dreams. Just in general, I'm not a big dream rememberer.
Yeah.
However, nightmares tend to be a little more memorable
just a little
than the dreams. Okay, so I've had one where, I don't know if you would call this a nightmare, but it's definitely freaky and definitely like freaked me out, where like I was breeding geckos.
Oh.
I don't know why. Because I only have, I have zero interest in breeding geckos.
You have one gecko, it couldn't happen.
I have a boy, so it's not even like I'm dealing with egg laying with geckos or anything like that. But I distinctly remember, you know how like gecko breeders have the 2 little eggs and the cute little like incubation kind of container? It was like that. And then like this gecko came out, but it wasn't just one gecko. It was like a gecko, a gecko, a gecko, like a Russian doll type of thing. And it was just like all these gecko, kind of like a spider egg. You know how they all just kind of like
come out. I'll never forget that scene in, what is it, Charlotte's Web?
Oh, yeah.
We'll never forget. I mean, they were adorable spiders, but as a child, I was concerned.
You're like, that's what happens.
Like, that's a lot of spiders, guys.
That's what happens when they hatch. Oh, no.
I know. That was burned into my childhood memory.
Oh, gosh. But yeah, that was kind of freaky.
That's a solid one.
That's a solid endless one. Geckos.
I have had so many.
Where do you want to start?
So many. So I think probably what is most common is like you said, like the Russian doll situation, because I have had situations where I think when it really hit its peak was when I had Draco and Drusilla, my satanic leaf-tailed geckos, because that was the first time that I actually had animals that were like cohabbed, living in the same enclosure, could have had babies, could have had eggs, male-female situation. So like that, I think when I had them, I started to have like a lot of those kind of dreams.
Sure.
To the point where one dream that I have that I will never forget, I walked into the reptile room and Draco and Drusilla had like 18 babies.
That's a lot.
And they were...
So you would have like 1 or 2.
Yeah, I know. But I walked in and it was just full of babies. And I immediately had to go and I like ran into the reptile room closet and I was like, what spare enclosures do I have? And I started to like organize that. And then right when I got like that kind of under control, I turned around. Charlie, a male, had sporadically also had babies. He suddenly became like asexual and just was able to like reproduce a bunch of babies by himself.
Baby Charlies.
Yeah. And so that was terrifying. And so I've had that where like multiple of I've just walked into the reptile room and all of a sudden I have animals just that like I didn't account for. That was, I will never forget that. And so I've had that happen. I have also had a situation where I walked into a friend's bedroom in my dream and they had countless reptiles just everywhere. There were like geckos in, like 6 geckos in an enclosure. There were 3 snakes in an enclosure. There were like 17 frogs in one enclosure. Like it was like I walked into a friend's bedroom and they were like, look at my reptile room. And I was like,
oh no,
I have to save them. And so it like immediately became like a rescue mission.
Yes, and then that's like, anxiety inducing too.
Yeah. So like it's not even just dreams about me. Like I've had dreams that like friends who also have like no interest in reptiles.
Right.
Like,
so your
what,
brain is like, this is
I was
not
like, why? Like, it was
making sense.
one of those conflicting things where like my subconscious brain was like, this is real. And then my brain that was like conscious was like, no, it's not.
This doesn't make sense.
This is a dream.
Yeah.
Like,
I always have, not always, but like typically when I have reptile dreams, it's usually after an expo. I don't know if you get that or
weird.
not, but it's just like I am exposed to more
Reptile
reptiles
stuff,
than
yeah.
I normally am, and different species than what I personally keep, right? Like I don't have snakes, so like when I go to shows, then I'm like seeing a lot more snakes or handling snakes that I don't normally
totally. That's fair.
handle and stuff like that. So that always will like prompt dreams. I'm trying to think if I've had any snake related dreams or nightmares. I guess I don't think
either
so.
one.
Although there are those like scenes like Indiana Jones where just like in a room full of
Yes.
snakes.
Yes.
I feel like that's like a classic
That's a
cliche.
classic.
For some people that's a dream, and for
Yes.
some people
Yes.
that's a nightmare. So really,
Yes.
really up
Yes.
for personal interpretation. But I think that's like
No, that's
probably
a
one
solid
everyone has had at some point.
I have also, this one's really bizarre. I definitely had a dream one time where my tiger salamander, she's an amphibian, so and they love water. So she's always soaking in her water bowl or under her water bowl. She had quadrupled in size and was in my bathtub.
That's the best. I wish I had a dream of like one of my reptiles getting like massive.
Yeah, I had that.
That'd be so cool.
And I just like walked into my bathroom in my dream and she was just in the tub the size of a dog. And I was like,
It's so funny because Kermit is like the most like derpy,
the most
just,
derpy,
like,
docile,
just
chill,
happy to be
little
there. So like
happy-go-lucky
of all
girl.
your like reptiles, amphibians,
Oh yeah.
Scaly babies, like she would be the one that would be probably the chillest.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Easy. And she was like, it wasn't that, I wouldn't call that a nightmare. That was just a
weird.
Like, what was that?
Have you had
Why did I have that?
any reptile dreams about my reptiles?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I've had dreams where I'm like pet sitting for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Or you die if we're going into nightmares.
Oh.
And then I have to like, then I take care of all your
Oh no.
all your animals.
Oh no.
If you want to go real
That's
nightmares.
actually so real. Because if I died, that would happen.
Yes. And
So
so I'm
Logan
like,
would immediately call you.
be like, pause the funeral planning.
Yeah.
Pause.
We got to disperse the reptiles.
We gotta make sure. No, but I'm like, okay, like in my dream, nightmare, whatever you want to call it, like, I'm like, okay, who's taking the snakes? Because like, I don't have, and we've talked about this.
Yes.
Like, I was like, but I will ensure that they will
For
go
sure.
to
Absolutely.
like good homes. Everyone else, I feel
Absolutely.
feel good about. I'm just not.
Oh yeah.
An
At this point,
experienced snake
at this
keeper.
point in the reptile hobby too, we also are lucky enough that like I know that there are at least like 3 or 4 people on the internet that you would reach out to first that would be like solid and trustworthy.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, we'd figure it out.
Truly. But then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so like,
But then you have to ship them for me. I love that we're just casually having if you died, how would that go conversation on the pod.
But I've thought about this.
I've thought about it for you too. Are you kidding?
I've thought about this because I have people locally that I would call and be like, hey, I need your help to handle Tarzan, to like ship him to a good home. But then also I'm like, where would I put all of your geckos and lizards and the species that I do feel comfortable taking,
keeping?
you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, which
Just
ones
so
would
you know,
Logan keep?
he would keep Nessie.
Right? I feel like he would have at least one.
He would probably keep Charlie and Nessie. I think those would be the 2 that he would be like the most comfy being like, I could be responsible for their lives.
Yes, because I feel like he would want, speaking for Logan, on
Logan,
behalf of your death.
I'm writing you into the will. This is what you are required to take.
But I feel like, and maybe this can be a future, like human death and reptiles, and like I think we've talked about that. Like, someone's asked us like what our plans are if we were to like die,
kick the bucket.
You said it so much nicer than me. I said die. You say kick the bucket.
Is also technically not. That's technically a bad joke.
Okay. I'm getting flashbacks to the episode we recently did where I'm like, oh, they're both dead.
They're both dead. Yeah.
Anyways, I do think it would be nice to have some sort of tie to you through the proxy of like your animals. Yeah. But yeah, that is a nightmare and like things I've like thought about and dreamt about.
Of your babies, I would probably keep Luna and Pluto. I think I would probably happily, especially now that I don't have a crusty anymore, I would happily keep Pluto,
Yeah.
even though he's a biter. I'd take him.
I think I think that was just breeding season.
Fair, it could be.
I don't think he would bite me now. I think he just hasn't been handled in so long that he would just be a little like.
And that was also when he
out.
was turning like
2.
Yeah, so he was getting his hormonal age. But anyway,
sure.
back to the dreams.
God, what a tangent.
I know.
Okay, any others that you can think of?
Oh,
Escaping is always a classic one.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like I've had so many. Like that is probably out of all the ones that I've had, the spontaneous breeding and the escaping are the most common that I have.
I'm just imagining like dog-sized Kermit going out the front door into your neighborhood and be like, Kermit, come back.
I'll be like, where are you going?
You're running after this massive
with her like little stubby fingers.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
Yeah, but I have escaping ones all the time. I've had numerous dreams where I've walked into the reptile room and Tarzan is just like sitting on the couch. I've had numerous ones where they've actually escaped and I like cannot find them for the life of me, and a week has gone by in my dream and I haven't been able to find them, and I'm like explaining to everyone that I've lost my anaconda. Like I've had that many times.
Yeah. I wish I remembered more of my dreams, not my nightmares.
I honestly,
my nightmares don't usually involve my pets though.
I remember like a good chunk of my dreams somehow.
That's good. The only time I remember mine is if I'm napping.
Yeah, that's
which I feel like you don't really go into like
deep sleep.
You
don't get that REM sleep in a nap.
Yeah. And my naps are usually like 40 minutes,
right?
Somewhere in there, and so like it's enough for me to like fall asleep and dream, but not enough. So then that's usually when like we were saying like your worlds collide of like the logical part of your brain and then the like crazy part of your brain. That's when that stuff happens.
For sure.
And then it'll be like people I know who have reptiles that I know don't have reptiles, but they're keeping them.
Yep.
And they're like giving me advice. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
I have had that. I forgot about those.
Yeah.
I've had arguments about fights with people about reptiles.
Yes.
Oh my God. I didn't even think about that as a category of this.
Yeah. So I've had stuff like that where you wake up and you're like,
yeah,
that person would never have a reptile.
Yeah.
So like why?
That actually
was that thing?
Just made me think when I was, oh my gosh, I think it was, so when I was like in college, I had Charlie, right? And so when I had Charlie, I remember leaving school and I was like moving to like my new city and I was like gonna like get all set up. And I remember my mom asked me, and this was real life, not a dream. My mom was like, well, what are you going to do with Charlie? Like, and her assumption was like, I had like outgrown it and I was going to like rehome him.
We're now on a reptile podcast.
And, hello, 10 years later, here we are. And so, but that was kind of like her assumption was that I was going to rehome him after college. And I remember telling her like, no, what are you talking about? Like he's coming to the new city with me. Like he's moving into my apartment. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And after that happened, I had a couple of dreams where my parents rehomed him without my knowledge.
Went to
and
a farm.
I freaked out. And
I would too.
So you just triggered that memory, babe, because I totally forgot about those because my dreams were having fights with my parents being like, why would you do this to me? Like,
we sent off Daisy to the farm.
I know. That was the vibe of the dream. They were like,
no.
And their argument was like, we're so sorry. Like he was here while you were moving. We thought that it was, and like to their, a lot of people do grow out of it and that's fine. Like whatever. But like, that was their argument. And I was like, no, like mortified. So yeah, that closes the loop on all my reptile dreams.
Let us know if you guys have had some crazy dreams. Hopefully you don't get inspiration from ours.
Fingers crossed you don't.
I'll be curious. Is like subconsciously, am I going to have now a crazy reptile dream because we had this conversation?
Probably. We'll keep you posted.
Updated. Yes. Stay tuned.
It's a very common thing. We had somebody comment on it in our Q&A and we were like, yes, in fact, we do have those. And we know that everybody in the reptile world has those dreams.
I think my favorite you said that was the giant
Kermit. That one was probably the weirdest one I've ever had. So big fan of that one.
That's good. Love it.
Are you looking for a new enclosure for one of your reptile babies? Be sure to check out Cages with a K. Each enclosure is made to order by their team in Minnesota, which means they can even do custom builds.
The enclosures are made from high quality PVC with tempered glass doors allowing for superior heat and humidity retention. They offer screen tops, side vents, and belly heat customization options to ensure the ideal setup for any environment.
So whatever dream home you want built, Cages has you covered. Use code WILDTYPE50 to get $50 off any order over $300 at reptile-cages.com. By now you've heard us talk all about Scratches, the social app that helps exotic pet owners like us find their people.
You can add photos of you and all your scaly babies, set your filter to reptiles, and start scrolling through your local pet parents who get it. Think of Scratches as your way of avoiding the ever-looming "so do you have any pets?" question. Whether you're looking for friendship, romance, or someone who can pet sit your critters, your community is just a new match away.
Download Scratches today and start connecting with reptile keepers in your area. Available on iOS and Android. Okay, Neptune, what are your top 2 feeder bugs for all your critters?
Dubious for protein and black soldier fly larvae for lots of calcium.
Simpton offers a wide variety of insects like silkworms, dubia roaches, waxworms, and our favorites, black soldier fly larvae.
I've also heard the entomologists at Simpton have customized the diet of their black soldier fly larvae to maximize their calcium content, so there's no need to dust them with calcium.
So if you're interested in trying them out, use code THEWILDTYPE at simptonbsf.com for 15% off your order.
Do you sell reptiles? Be sure to check out the Palm Street app, a place where you can have your very own live auctions to help find your reptiles' amazing homes in a community full of thousands of reptile lovers. To apply to be a seller, go to page.palmstreet.app/reptile.
They prioritize ethical breeding and trading practices, ensuring all reptiles on their platform come from responsible sources. Once approved, Palm Street's reptile team will guide you through every step, from setting up your reptile shop to going live for the first time. You'll get hands-on support to sell confidently, safely, and responsibly.
It's officially July, so it's time to start planning your purchases for Pangea's summer sale.
From July 9th through the 18th, you can get 15% off on isopods and some great discounts on geckos too. For their dry goods sales, there will be 10% off bulk cork bark or 20% off our favorite gecko dishes and ledges, and even more too. The best part is the incentives. If you spend over $125, you get a free eco dish and a free t-shirt if you spend over $150.
And don't forget to check out their new products while you're shopping the hot summer sale at PangeaReptile.com. We're so excited to introduce the Reptile Girlies to our favorite reptile-friendly coffee and tea brand, Cold Blooded Caffeine. Our favorite thing about them is that they donate 5% of all their proceeds to wildlife conservation to ensure reptiles and amphibians have a place to call home in the wild, as well as in our homes.
And if you know me, you know I'm obsessed with herbal teas. So for any of our fellow tea lovers, they source some of the highest quality loose leaf teas in the world.
Cold Blooded Caffeine offers a wide variety of coffee like their Rainforest Blend, single origin options, and collaborations with some of the biggest names in the reptile world.
For 25% off your first order, use code WILDTYPE at coldbloodedcaffeine.com. Moving right along to our next little topic. This was another one suggested, but our thoughts on zoos.
Yes.
And this one can be like kind of controversial, kind of interesting. And I feel like there's a lot of nuance to it.
Yes. I'm just going to keep saying yes. But no, it's true. And I was thinking about this and I was like, I have mixed feelings.
I do too. Yeah.
And that's why this is like such a good question and such a good discussion, because it is kind of controversial. Mm-hmm. And I have this dilemma internally of like, my opinions on zoos as an adult.
Yes.
And my opinions on
Very
zoos
different.
as a kid who like, that was my favorite.
Me too.
Was going to the zoo, was going to SeaWorld. Because I put SeaWorld
in
kind
the
of
same
like
category. Yes,
in
I
there,
agree.
in there as well. And so like
I was a big SeaWorld kid.
I have like a really hard time as an adult who like logically can make educated opinions and things, having that go against like truly some of my favorite childhood memories are going to zoos and seeing animals and wildlife, and like obviously makes a lot of sense because now here we are. But you know, like that was a like really really big highlight.
I mean, my like whole childhood, I was like bonding with my dad over like Steve Irwin, Shark Week, like all these things. Like that was like,
and you're naive, right? Like as a kid, you don't know that like there's potential like things. And then also I really love the movie Madagascar.
I do too. It's a good one.
And so I'm like, do I have feelings about that? Yeah. About that too. So I don't know. I think everyone has to make their own choice.
Yes.
In their own opinion, as far as like if you support zoos and then how you support zoos. I think there can be a lot of good things that come out of zoos, like the conservation efforts that are made, the education opportunities that are made. A lot of people would not know about a lot of these animals
without
or
zoos.
Reptiles or anything, like any of the different animal species without zoos, and I think that's a really cool special opportunity. Like unless you're going to the Africa on a safari,
Right.
like when else are you going to see
or trekking through
a
Madagascar
giraffe or something, right? Like exactly. So I think that's like really special. However, there are people who do it well, and there are people who don't do it well.
Facts.
And that's true of literally anything. Especially though with animals. You can say it for like cat and dog owners.
Yes.
Just people who own cats and dogs, right?
100%.
Same. And then that gets even further when we're talking like exotic animals. So that's where I have a hard time of like, maybe there's a sweet spot where like we can support zoos that have like good intentions, good motivations, and like conservation efforts, and are like doing things right and providing, you know, obviously as much space as we can in captivity. People can make that argument though for our reptiles of like, they should just stay in the wild, and you know, like while I don't disagree that like
I have thoughts, but whatever.
A tiger or a lion should have like as much space as possible, right? Like I get it, but we're limited to what we have. So it's like, okay, can you find? And then I just talk myself in a circle. So I'll pass it over to you.
And I also have extremely mixed feelings as someone who did go to Joe Exotic's zoo in college.
Oh, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been there.
I have not.
Again, I was like 19. My brain was not fully developed. And I did look around at that situation. I was like, this feels off. This feels a little off. So like, you know, I started having those feelings around my like late teens, and I was like,
zoos,
okay.
Bad zoos.
Yeah. And I think like for me, like one of the most important things to say now as like an educated adult when it comes to those things, like one of the number one things that I will always recommend is if you are going to support zoos or aquariums or anything like this, I do think that it is best to ensure that the place that you're going is an AZA accredited zoo. That for me is like one of the most important things.
Do you know what AZA stands for?
American Zoo and Aquarium Association.
Okay, cool.
I think. Or American Zoo and Aquarium Association. I'm
Something
pretty
like
sure.
that.
Something like that. I did look it up like last night, and so it was along those lines. But an AZA accredited zoo is that certification or whatever. Like in order to achieve that and be considered an AZA zoo, I'm pretty sure they have like from what I've heard, from what I've read, from what I've looked into when it comes to all this. Like those zoos and aquariums they have a very high standard of care. They're very focused on like the welfare of the animals and like providing them with proper homes and things like that. So at the bare minimum when it comes to like supporting places that animals could be at risk or could be, you know, being exploited in certain ways, like I think AZA accreditation is one of the better ways to make sure.
That, so that's fantastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, I'll just look it up just to make sure because it is in my quick history, but it is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums for Animal Care, Welfare, Conservation, and Education. They're considered to be the gold standard in the zoo industry in America, ensuring a high level of ethical and responsible animal management. And so and then Google literally lists like all the conservation efforts, all the like high standards. They have to undergo like regular welfare assessments to assure their well-being. They must adhere to strict guidelines and standards in animal housing, feeding, veterinary care, and enrichment programs.
Perfect.
So like, that's my big thing. Like at my big age of 32, I certainly will not be going to any zoos or aquariums at this point in my life that aren't AZA accredited, because I think at the bare minimum, I can make sure that like that's what I'm supporting.
There's also like conservations, right?
100%.
Where I've been to a few of those where it's very like you can tell natural wildlife and like all the species that they have there are local to that area, which I think is really cool. And like they're doing a lot of conservation efforts of like endangered species and things like that. Of like, and they're doing rehab for, you know, animals that get injured because they have experience with like the local species and things like that, which I think can be really cool. At this point, I don't think I would feel good with like SeaWorld and those types of things. Those are just that's just really hard. As much as I love
it's so hard because I also, when I was 15, also went to SeaWorld and swam with a beluga whale. So like I've done a lot of these things in my lifetime.
I have not. That's cool though.
It was really cool, but it was like before we knew like everything we knew. And it's so interesting because oh man, I feel like we could go on with like the SeaWorld topic for like ever and ever. So we won't go into all of that today. But
And I also know people are very black and white with
sure.
this, right? They're like, no, like in any scenario, absolutely not.
Well, and I think specifically with the SeaWorld of it all and like marine life, I think in 2025, it is abundantly clear that like those big mammals, marine mammals, should have never been in captivity in the first place. Like, we cannot adequately keep them. It's insane that we thought that we could, like all of those things. But at this point, it's like, okay, the laws have been made. No more are ever going to be taken back into captivity. Like, they're doing what they can. And at this point, I think they're more focused on conservation, and that's great. But again, I also don't think I'd be comfortable like going and supporting it.
No, we were kids in like peak SeaWorld era.
Yes, we were big time.
Peak SeaWorld era, right? Where like all the shows were all the things and like all the trainers and all the... Anyway,
well, part of my like desire to be a marine biologist when I was a kid was because I wanted to be like a SeaWorld trainer. Like that was like part of like...
Yeah, it was a lot of hype.
There was so much hype. It was crazy.
One thing I did when I went to Hawaii was go to this like seahorse conservation area where they were like helping like breed seahorses to like help keep the population up. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And you got to like see them, and they like taught you how to like
That's
interlace
so
your
cool.
fingers, so then you could just, and they wrap their little tail. You just like interlace your fingers, put them in the water, and just hold them still, and then eventually they'll like swim to you and like hook their little tail on you, and it's like the best.
Cool. Oh my God.
Yeah. I love that. And there was also like I almost said a seahorse, a sea turtle rehabilitation center. So like I almost said seahorse again. Sea turtles. Why did they put the sea in front of it?
Yeah.
The sea turtles, right? Any that get like injured or whatever, then they'd bring them to this rehabilitation center.
Yeah.
So like to me, you still get the mix of like getting to see these animals up close that like you probably wouldn't otherwise, but not necessarily in like the big corporate like zoo setting. But
right. And so it's like there's mixed feelings. I have lots of mixed feelings. I definitely, as a kid, did a lot of things that I would never do now. I definitely have like much higher standards of how I like look at that and how I think of that. But I think it like most animal lovers who are in our generation, or even maybe even younger, like who grew up loving animals, like as kids, we were just like, I get to experience these incredible animals. Oh my gosh, like why wouldn't I, you know? But then you get older and then you learn things and you get logical and you're like, oh, okay.
I also love zoo movies.
Yeah.
So the ones that come to mind are We Bought a Zoo.
Oh, that is, I have not thought about that movie in so many years. I'll cry thinking about it. I love that movie.
That's a great movie.
Oh my gosh.
And then Up.
Yes.
Because they were like in like zookeepers and stuff like that. And I was like, to me, falls into like the zoo category as well. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, let us know your thoughts. You guys know us. Like, we're very open to discussion. Like, you are so welcome to have your opinions as long as you're respectful of our opinions. That's all we ever ask, is that like if you guys have conversations, that we keep an open mind and like lead with kindness. But yeah, it's interesting, and it's interesting to see how like the zoo industry, I guess that's a good word, has kind of like evolved and changed versus like when we were kids going to the zoo, it was the wow factor. It was the like, you know, the shock value and things like that. Versus nowadays, while that's still present, no doubt, there does seem to be a little bit more emphasis on conservation, which I think is like really special.
Well, and that's, in all honesty, how it should be. And like, I hope that like the human species continues to like emotionally evolve into like that kind of thing, because I think that is at the end of the day like the most important thing. So
there are some zoos in Australia. I know.
That's my dream.
I know.
That's my dream.
Those would be really cool.
Oh, but I would kill to
homework.
see Steve Irwin's zoo one day.
Do your homework before, but like those would be really cool.
Just because I just threw Steve Irwin in there, I do think that would be an interesting future episode to talk about, like, would Steve Irwin fly in 2025 and his like
not literally fly, but would he still be supported?
Would the way that he went about things still be like supported in 2025? But,
to be discussed.
Yeah, thought that's an interesting one. So we'll write that down for you guys. But up next we have another Are You the Type?
Yes.
Right?
This is a segment we've maintained.
I'm actually very proud of this one.
From the beginning.
We've kept this one alive and well.
Because when we were brainstorming the podcast, of
This
like,
was one of our
how do we want to
first ideas.
Structure it? Like, we want to make sure we have like rotating segments. So like you guys have seen us do like the blind ranking and things like that. But
we haven't done a blind ranking in a while. We should throw that in there. But
we did the proposals.
We did. You're right.
That was a couple episodes. But the Are You the Type of Girl to Blank was like one that we came up with. And that was early on in like a coffee shop.
That was like one of our first ideas, I would say, for a segment. We were like, we have to do the play on the name and whatever. So we've kept this one alive.
Yeah. So what's this one?
This one is, are you the type of girl or guy to use dry shampoo? It mostly applies to the girlies, but...
Long hair. As long as you have long hair, I feel like.
For sure.
I don't know many people with short hair that use dry shampoo, but let us know if you do. I do use dry shampoo, but I'm a recent adopter.
Really?
Yes. Only within like the last year or two.
Oh, interesting.
Have I started using dry shampoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So dry shampoo is something that my mom always puts in my Christmas stocking.
Oh,
so I always have like just at least 1 or 2 cans that are from my mom. But I do use dry shampoo, but I'm very particular about it because as a blondie, it can really show up if I use too much.
As a reddy. Only because you said blonde. I'm dead. As a ginger. Yeah. No, it also is very apparent.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And and I feel like that goes for people with dark hair too. I think it's just like you have to be very careful with like the application.
So I sometimes will do it and then I'll pause for a second because it'll be like very white. And I'm like, is this what I'm going to look like when I'm like a little old lady?
Yeah.
But anyways, continue your application.
It's so I'm very particular about it because I am somebody that had, and I think I talked about this in last episode actually, because my hair was up. So I mentioned last week, I have like a weird complex about like looking bald when my hair is up. So I will sometimes I grew up always washing my hair every single day. Always, without question. I wash my hair in the morning, every morning, because if I washed it at night and woke up the next morning, it was greasy because I have like very like fine like baby hair. And so I have oily skin. So it's like marriage in hell. And so so I always have like greasy hair if I don't shower and wash it every day. And so because of that, dry shampoo is kind of perfect for me in that regard so that I can make it like 2 days without having to wash my hair every single day because that is crazy.
Yeah.
And so I would say maybe when I was like 26 or 27, finally was like, all right, I give up. I can't wash my hair every day. This is insane. And then like during COVID, I tried to do the hair
like
training.
Train your hair.
So I like didn't wash my hair for like 3 weeks during COVID, not because it was like COVID gross stuff. It was like, I was literally just like, I'm trying to train my hair and it looks horrible and I don't know what to do. So training my hair did not work at all remotely. And so because of that, I started to be like, okay, the most that I can go without washing my hair is like every other day, right? So on that second day, I do use dry shampoo, but I have to be very careful about how much that I use because if I use too much, my hair will look gray because my blonde hair, like my roots, are much more like kind of like mousy blonde, or I hate that word. It's such like a negative. It's a word that's used to describe like darker blondes.
Oh, okay.
And so like I have very naturally light blonde hair, but I do get like my balayage highlights on the ends and stuff. And so, but my roots are like my very natural color, but mixed with the white of the dry shampoo, it looks gray, like straight up gray.
Yeah.
And like a dark gray. And so I have to be very careful to put the dry shampoo like kind of like over my ears and under the top layer of hair, not in the part. I can't put it in the part. And I have to be very particular about like where I put it so that it doesn't show through. And it's a lot.
That's funny because I'm not that particular about it, but I have much thicker hair than you do.
You do, and that's the thing. My hair's so thin and so fine.
It's gotten thinner over the years, but it's still thicker than
yours is way thicker
than yours, and it's got curls and like volume to it.
And I think that's part of it too, is because mine is straight. There's like no hiding it.
Yeah.
Yours, it's like you can curl it, you can fluff it up, and it'll kind of hide it. And I don't have that luxury.
Yeah. So I like I mentioned, I was like probably 2 years ago, I started using dry shampoo, and I'm not like a regular use her just like as needed, but I do work out quite a bit, and
Yeah,
I do
you
like
do. Yeah.
sweaty workouts. So then like you want to like wash your hair for those, but then what do you do for workouts when you don't get super sweaty, but you
Right.
still need to like rinse yourself,
Right,
but you're
yeah.
like, but my hair is fine.
Right.
So then I'll just use dry shampoo usually the evening before, like, so I'll go to sleep, I'll like
With it in.
spray it,
Yeah.
kind of like rub it in there, and then I
Yeah.
do look like a little old lady.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then I wake up and then my hair's good, so that I can style
Yeah.
it for another like day or two before I have to
See,
to
the
wash
fact
it.
that you just said day or two is insane to me.
Well, because I
can't.
can get a style day out of it, and then I can
Yeah.
get a ponytail day out of it.
Totally makes sense.
And then I will have to
Yeah.
like, and at that point, then I'm probably doing like a super sweaty
Yeah.
workout anyways. So then I'm gonna wash
Right.
everything at that point. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I just use it as like as needed when I know I want to extend my hair just like
Yeah.
a little bit. But I only use it in the evenings. I don't use it like
Yeah.
just before bed.
I'll usually use it in the morning whenever I really need it. So that's a good thought. I haven't ever put it on like in the morning and used it that way. But it's just I also, for me, again, it's because my hair is straight and I don't have any like volume that like it also creates like a staticky texture in my hair sometimes, which I hate that feeling.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think it's because of the powder. It creates
Yeah.
almost like a little bit of like some kind of like staticky feeling which I struggle with static in general with super straight fine hair. So static is during the winter. My leather jacket makes my hair staticky, like all these little things. And dry shampoo does kind of do that too. So I don't love the texture of dry shampoo. So it's like if I'm using dry shampoo, it's because I feel like I have no other option. So
It's like in a little glass box with a tiny hammer.
Yeah.
In case of emergency.
Exactly. So it's like I
Break it
use
open.
it, but in all honesty, I hate
Have
using
you
it.
seen the like little tiny ones?
Yes,
The
they're so
travel
cute.
size?
They're so cutie. They're adorable.
I love those. Also, there's some really good smelling
Yes, there are.
dry shampoo.
Yes.
So even like before
Yes.
bedtime, and I will go right for the roots because I'm like,
Yeah.
get her
You gotta
in there,
get in
and then
there.
I'm sleeping on it, so it's fine anyways.
Yeah, that's good.
But I'm like, ooh, this is nice.
Yeah.
And it, like,
well, that's why
smells
I'm
good.
grateful for my mom who gives me like multiple, because each time she puts it in my stocking, it's like a different kind. So I get to try all the scents and
There
all
you
the
go.
flavors without spending my own money, which is nice.
Thanks, Mom.
But yeah, thanks. 32 and still taking advantage of that. Yeah.
I love that for
But
you.
I think that kind of wraps us up. But let us know. Do you guys use dry shampoo? What's your deal with it? Are you picky about it like me? Are you more casual about it? How does it fit into your routine, or if it doesn't at all? Because I understand that.
Yep.
I wish I didn't have to use it sometimes, frankly.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
So, but I guess that wraps us up for today. We hope that you guys enjoyed, and you guys can follow the podcast anywhere on all the different things at the Wild Type Podcast. Check us out on Spotify for early access, Patreon, all that good stuff, all our merch. And then you can find me anywhere at Lyssa's Lizards.
You can check me out at Neptune and Chameleon.
And we'll see you girlies next week.
Bye.